Welcome back to Sailing El Jaleo. This week in video time, we continue our way up Chesapeake Bay, but in real time, I'm actually recording this audio on the day this video will be released. So this is about as close to a real-time update as you're ever going to get. Normally the videos run between 4 and 8 weeks behind, depending upon where I'm at in traveling. And I've actually been in Delaware now for about 6 weeks. I've gotten a really good start on a lot of boat projects. And I've actually spent the last few weeks with my brother at one of his houses. He had some remodeling stuff to do, so I've been helping him out with that. And now I'm back. I'm going to get caught up on videos. And in 1 week, I'm actually traveling to Wisconsin to spend a week with my best friend Joan. So that's going to be awesome. I might show you a few photos from around the fire pit. That's my favorite place. Around the fire pit, singing karaoke with my best friend. So anyways, in video time, we're heading up Chesapeake Bay, so we might as well go ahead and get right into that. Grab a drink, climb aboard, and let's get going. Hey y'all, we are in Hampton, Virginia, which is just north of Norfolk. And I don't know if me spinning around, if that's moving too quickly, is making you dizzy or not. But I don't know if you guys remember, but the last time we came here was our hell ride to Hampton. And that was the worst trip we had ever had. And everything got thrown around downstairs. The dogs were down there. I didn't know if they were hurt. I couldn't leave to go check on them. So for about 3 or 4 hours, I had no idea how the dogs were, which was not great. And that was totally my fault. I didn't secure the cabin. It was supposed to be a calm day, but it ended up being 3 to 3.5 foot waves. So it was not calm, and we chalked that up to a learning experience. And tomorrow it's supposed to be 10 to 15 knots, winds favorable in our direction, and then the weather gets really crappy. So if I leave tomorrow, I've got to go far. I've got to get somewhere safe, which is Mill Creek, and that's 60 miles from here. So that is a really long day. So either I get up tomorrow morning at maybe 2 in the morning and plan on leaving at 3 and do the first leg in the dark, and then try and make it up to Mill Creek. And then the next, I mean, if I don't leave tomorrow, the next window is Thursday. Today is Monday, but so I'd have to sit here for a few days. Thursday is arguably a better day because the wind will be on our beam if the wind projections are correct, which they seem to be kind of notoriously not correct. It seems to be getting worse lately. I don't know. Maybe predict a wind is not the way to go. I don't know. But yeah. So I think because we kind of want to keep moving, and the weather's dicey this whole week. I mean, if I waited to play it safe, I mean, I'd be stuck here for at least a week. So we can't do that. So I think tomorrow morning we're going to get up and go. The Chesapeake Bay is pretty well lit. I mean, the buoys and stuff. So, in my nav program, now that it's linked up with the AIS, the geolocation is spot on. Obviously, you can always run into something in the dark, but I've got the batteries downstairs charging for the spotlight. But you know, I don't think we'll run into anything in Chesapeake Bay. So don't really want to go tomorrow, but hopefully the wind is no greater than 15 or 20 knots, and even at that it can get a little sporty. But the wind will be coming out of from this shore blowing up that way, and we're going to hug this shoreline going up. So hopefully we'll get a little bit of a break from the shoreline. I don't know. Yeah. Tomorrow could be a disaster. Oh, I think I just snorted. All right, I'm gonna go down and take a shower and have a cocktail and try and get to bed early so I can get up at 2. Hope y'all are well. Fingers crossed for tomorrow. Hey y'all, today I think is, I don't know what day it is, but there's the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel over there. It goes underwater right over there. Today we were going to leave. When I went to bed last night, there was forecast for a clear day. And when I got up this morning, it was forecast for rain all day. So, needless to say, we're not going anywhere today, and we got a thick fog here. Lovely Chesapeake Bay fog that we woke up to as well. So, I guess we're staying here today. I think our next window to leave, yeah, it must be Saturday today, yeah. And our next chance to leave where the winds will be favorable for us will be on Tuesday, so hopefully we can get out of there then. All right, hope y'all are well. What do you think, Wiegand? You should get in here so you don't get wet, Princess. Come on in. And we actually ended up getting stuck in Hampton for 8 or 9 days. The wind during this stretch for about 3 weeks, the wind was blowing almost directly down the bay. And it was really hard for us to find a wind that we could work with. Now, we could have zigzagged back and forth, you know, like we were beating into the wind with our sails, and we could have done that. But down at this part of the bay where it's wider, it's really difficult to find a safe, protected place to anchor. And storms were coming through with 25-knot winds, it seemed like every 3 days. So if we were going to anchor somewhere, we kind of really needed a protected place, because we didn't know how long we'd be stuck there. So just north of Hampton is Mobjack Bay, and it's a really big, wide bay. And in order to get somewhere protected where you're not going, you know, there are places you can anchor around Mobjack Bay, but then you're going 10 miles out of your way to get to those anchorages. So you're wasting 2.5 hours minimum to get to those anchorages. And even if we tried to motor directly into the wind, the period of the waves was such that we don't go fast enough that we can bridge the period between the waves. So we're pounding into the waves every time, and we'd get into this pattern where the boat would be slamming up and down, and we'd bury the nose into a wave, and that would take us to a dead stop. And then we'd slowly build speed back up over the next 2 or 3 waves. And then we'd get back into that pattern where we'd bury the nose. So it's really frustrating trying to motor directly into the wind. And if we tried to go off the wind, like we were sailing, you know, beating against the wind, in a zigzag pattern, we just couldn't have covered the distance that we needed to get to a safe anchorage without wasting half of our day getting to the anchorage. So in order to make, let's say we wanted to make, you know, 20 miles of progress up the bay, we would have ended up going 30 to 35 miles to get to the anchorage. And then the next day we would have had to have spent that 10 or 15 miles to get back on course before we could make positive progress. So unless we could make it up past Mobjack Bay into like the Gwyn Island, Deltaville area, it really didn't make sense for us to be out there in rough weather torturing ourselves. You know, and we really weren't in a hurry. So we ended up hanging out in Hampton for 8 or 9 days. And then the wind finally got into a pattern that we could deal with. And it was a very rough passage up to, we actually made it up to Deltaville. And we stayed in a place this time, which was Jackson Creek, which was right by Deltaville. And it had a very narrow entrance to get into Jackson Creek that's dredged. There is a sandbar that normally protects Jackson Creek, or actually does protect Jackson Creek, but would normally prevent you from getting in there if you get out of the channel. So I did fly the drone, in Deltaville, so you'll be able to see all the sandbars in the entrance. It's actually kind of cool, but those sandbars protect Jackson Creek from a lot of the waves from Chesapeake Bay, so it was a great place to stay. And once we did get up to Jackson Creek, we actually got stuck there for another, I think it was 8 or 9 days, because the wind was just blowing directly down the bay. And in order to make it up to our next stop, which was Mill Creek, we would have been pounding directly into the waves. So it was just the way the wind was working out. It just wasn't cooperating. So we had a couple of stretches where we were stranded for a little while, but it was good. We weren't in a hurry, so no harm, no foul. And our journey up the bay started off pleasant enough, but soon turned very rough, and it ended up being a pretty rough ride up to Jackson Creek. But we made it in the end, and we were happy to take a few days off after that. Hey y'all, today is someday. I don't know exactly when, but I'm going to try and stay out of the wind here if I can. We are currently in Jackson Creek, which is right by Gwynn Island, is just right over there in the Chesapeake. We're about 40 miles north of Hampton. We made it up here yesterday after a rough ride, and today there's a bunch of boats over here. I don't know if you guys can see them or not. I would have gone over there to anchor, but there were about 8 boats up in there last night, so I anchored over here. But that turned out to be okay. Even though we're exposed over here to Chesapeake Bay, right in through here there's a sandbar that's only about 8 or 12 inches deep, so it prevents any large waves from hitting us. Even last night the wind was out of this direction, probably 12 to 14 knots, and it was calm flat here, which was awesome. We got some good sleep after a rough ride yesterday, so that was awesome. Today out in the bay there are 18 to 20 knots. I don't know if you guys can see these trees over here are stirring pretty good, but the wind is coming out of over here, and we're protected by these trees over here. And you know, I actually don't mind wind at all, because then we can get our wind jenny going and get some power in here. But yeah, just the waves are what stinks, especially when you're trying to sleep. And rolling is the worst. Rolling is when you pitch from side to side. That really sucks. That's way worse than taking waves on the nose or the bow. But yeah, it's nice here. Nice day. We might be here for a few days. The wind is projected to be high for at least the next 4 days. I did think about trying to sneak up to Mill Creek this morning. It's only about 20 miles away. The problem is you have to go that way to cross the river before you turn north, and it's about 6 miles to get up to that point to turn north, and that would be going directly into the wind. So I decided to stay here because I couldn't use the head sail at that point. So I decided just to stay, especially after yesterday was pretty rough. And I'm kind of glad we did. I've been listening to the radio all morning. A couple other boats took off, and they said they were struggling out there, so I'm glad we stayed. They claimed 4-foot waves, but that seems pretty high. I think sometimes when we're in the moment we have a tendency to over exaggerate wave height, but maybe there is. What do I know? It could be that bad out there. So I'm glad we're here. I'm glad I found this Jackson Creek. Last time when I stayed on Gwynn Island, I stayed down on that side of it, and right now we would be getting slammed if we were down there. The entrance here is pretty narrow. I don't know that you can see it. I'll film it on the way out, but it is narrow, but it was deep enough. So yeah, this is a nice little place. I'll try and fly the drone at some point. Maybe if I keep it low down to the ground, out of the wind, I can fly it. So that would be nice to get some photos of this. This is a really nice little place. A couple of marinas, and I've read reviews online of the marinas. They seem really awesome. Like, you know, they have a dinghy dock, and the fee is like $5 to use the dinghy dock, but then you can use the facilities and you can use their courtesy car to go to town, and it seems like a pretty darn good deal. I don't need anything, but if you needed to go shopping or something, that'd be a pretty sweet situation. So, all right, I've been blabbing on for too long as it is, but I hope you guys are well, and I'm gonna go downstairs and edit some videos.
In the morning when I get up, I wish that we could stop and take each day. In the evening when I get home, always hope to find you all alone and out of harm's way. Every time I look around, I hope to find you looking back at me. You're everything I ever hope to see. In the morning when I get up, I wish that we could stop and take each day. In the evening when I get home, always hope to find you all alone and out of harm's way. Everything I ever hope to see. In the morning when I get up, I wish that we could stop. I wish that we could stop.
After 8 or 9 days, the wind finally started to cooperate with us on a little bit more regular basis, which was great. And we managed to escape Deltaville. And it was only about a 20-mile trip up to Mill Creek, and I would never dream of going by Mill Creek without stopping. It is my second favorite anchorage, next to Prince Creek in South Carolina. And there are thousands of Mill Creeks. This one is just south of the Potomac, and it's very well protected. It's got 360-degree protection. It's a great place to go when it's going to get stormy out in Chesapeake Bay. And one of my favorite houses is there. Actually, it's my favorite house that I've seen in the 10,000+ houses that I've looked at between Delaware and Florida is in Mill Creek. And it reminds me of the lake that I grew up on when I was young. So it's always nice to stop there for a few days and hang out. In my travels, I really haven't met that many people. I'm very much an introvert. I'm not very outgoing. I don't like bugging people, so I always keep to myself. But I do like it when other people bug me. If people are assertive and want to come up and talk, hey, that's great. I actually enjoy it. So I just don't like to be the one that initiates it, as odd as that probably sounds to normal people. But I did meet one person while I was in Deltaville. We were anchored, and I actually first noticed his boat when I got there. I saw the name of the boat on AIS. They were anchored up around the corner in a creek, so I couldn't see it, but I saw the name of it, and it was Mithril. And I'm a big fan of Lord of the Rings, so immediately I'm like, wow, that is a great name for a boat. I never would have thought of that. That's wonderful. So that was, just, it struck me as being a really great name. And the next day they re-anchored in a different position in Jackson Creek, and they actually went by, and I was down below and I saw them coming through on AIS. And I peeked out the window and I saw their boat when it went by, and I'm like, wow, that is a really unique looking boat. And like 2 days later, the guy stopped by in his dinghy and for a chat. We talked for like 5 or 10 minutes. And I suck because I really stink at remembering names, so I don't remember his name, but he and his girlfriend had taken a year off of work, and their plan was to sail. I believe they started out in Baltimore, if I remember correctly, and their plan was to sail down Chesapeake Bay, go across the Atlantic to the Azores, and then from the Azores up to Ireland. And these were young kids, and I say kids, they were probably like, I would guess, mid to upper 20s. And they were taking a year off work to do this, and I was a little concerned about, that they might get themselves in trouble with, trying to do too much and having kind of a schedule in mind of what they were going to do. And so I was a little concerned, but, it's their journey to have and everything. So as we were there in Deltaville together for about 5 days. I didn't talk to them beyond that. But when they were leaving, they left a day before I did to head south, and I saw them go. So I got on the radio and I just wished them luck on their journey, and I asked them if they had a blog that they were going to update so I could kind of follow along to see how they were doing on their journey. And they did. So they actually have an Iridium Go, so I could track their progress across the ocean. And so they went down to Hampton. They stayed there for a couple of weeks, and then they just headed straight into the Atlantic, and whoosh, they were gone. And, I watched as they went across, and I believe it took them 19 days to get to the Azores, but they were sending updates, little blog posts and photos and stuff that they could send through their Iridium. And they made it to the Azores, and I believe they stayed there for 2 weeks, and right now I think they just left the Azores on their way to Ireland. So I am totally blown away by that. I mean, the thought of crossing an ocean, to me, I'm not going to lie, it scares the shit out of me. It terrifies me. I don't, maybe that says something about me. I don't know. Maybe I've learned enough. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know what it is. Maybe I don't have that spirit of adventure that I thought I had. I think I do. But these kids did, and, I use the term kids loosely. It's just, to me, it actually is inspiring to me that they did that. And it kind of gives me, it doesn't spur me on. It doesn't, I don't know. I just think it's so cool, and it kind of, I don't know, it adds something to what I'm doing. And like it's maybe it takes a little bit of the terrifying nature out of crossing an ocean. Maybe it shouldn't, but I'm just really blown away that they did that. So I don't know why I bothered bringing that up, but it's just a cool couple that I met. I didn't get to meet the gal, but I met the guy, and I wish I could remember his name. But they had a really unique boat. It was the type was a Saugeen Witch, which I had never heard of. And I have a photo, I'll insert it. And I believe they added the pilot house onto the back of it after, the boat was manufactured. But I guess the boat had been in their family for a while, so they were just decided to go and sail. And it's just, that's great. Yeah. It's just great. And that's all we have time for this week. I'm seeing now that this video ran a little bit long. maybe my gift of gab is getting in the way. I'll try and rein that in the coming weeks, so I apologize for that. I thought I'd leave you with a beautiful sunrise over Mill Creek, and I would like to give a massive shout out to my Patreon crew. Without your guys' support, I would not make these videos, and my Patreon crew is Joan and Juddy Judnick, Val and Chris Alcorn, Denise and Eli Sackett, Sherry Erickson, Deb Shaw, and Matthew Spotten. Thank you guys so very much for your support. It really means the world to me. And I do have one legacy patron member, Joan Linbo. Unfortunately, she has passed on, but she will live on in our hearts forever. We miss you, Joan. If you are interested in joining our Patreon crew, there is a link in the description down below. And that'll take you to our Patreon page where you can sign up, and that'll give you access to a whole bunch of behind-the-scenes photos and videos. And I try and do posts a couple of times a week that give you live updates about where I'm at and what's going on. And you'd help support the channel, which would be awesome. If you do like our videos, please like, comment, and subscribe. That doesn't cost you guys anything, but it helps us out quite a lot, so I would appreciate it. Alrighty, I hope you all are well, and we'll see you next week.